Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new edition of GameTales, a podcast where we talk for an hour or so about things that may be important to you because they most often are to us as well. Now, as I've said previously, this is a podcast about our experiences with games. It's not necessarily the most in-depth or super-duper accurate historical rendition of video game history or of the games we're talking about in detail, so keep that in mind. Today's subject is that of the real-time strategy genre. And again, I am joined by Steven from the channel Complete Nonsense. Hi, Steven.
Hey, Unicom, and good morning, afternoon to our listeners. I missed you guys last week.
Yeah, it turns out that the cold succeeded in derailing us again.
Yeah, that's always a bummer. But we're back this week with a very hefty and heavy sort of subject, I think.
Yeah, real-time strategies. Shall we start with the eulogy for Command & Conquer? Because it's turned into a mobile game.
You can do that one. I was never a CNC person.
Remember when we used to have strategy games, real-time strategy games called Command & Conquer? Well, Electronic Arts sure doesn't. And I guess that's all of it. Like, wow.
I'm pretty sure. I'm sure there was that's an important thing for a lot of people. But I also think nowadays a lot of people just like to get up in arms about inconsequential shit. When it comes
think
to
of it this way. I mean, they were working on the Command & Conquer Generals 2, which sort of turned into a reboot of Command & Conquer, and it was helmed by the guy that made Might and Magic for some reason. He actually knows how to make games, so I'm not doubting his ability. But Electronic Arts canned that project completely, and then followed it up with let's make a mobile game, and saying that we're making the franchise, the genre better by making some mobile game that's a ripoff of Clash of Clans.
Well, that's I'm a bit more pragmatic. Or is there a reverse of cynicism, but still being a cynic about it? I'm like, I understand how business works. You know that, and this goes the same for movie studios. And as long as they have the IP, they can do whatever the fuck they want because it's their property.
I know. I mean, they turned the last Command & Conquer game that had a number in it into a MOBA. So the franchise died a while ago. This is just digging up the corpse and slapping it around a bit.
Yeah, but and if you don't, if it really doesn't matter, then you just don't talk about it.
Yeah, probably won't. I mean, maybe it'll just die off like the Dungeon Keeper mobile game did. That you had to pay money to skip over building the blocks.
Well, on the other hand, man, you have to also keep in mind there is the gaming industry in general is going through a bunch of growing pains right now. I mean, and it's been doing this for a couple of years ever since.
Yeah, it's confused about it's seeing stuff growing where it shouldn't, and it's confused about it, and it's trying out new things. I get it.
Yeah, the voice might be getting deeper or not deeper. Things are starting to pop up or sag or whatever the fuck. Yeah. So, there's going to be a bunch of shit. There's always a bunch of shit whenever we're talking about transitional periods in any sort of art medium. And the thing is, one of the things that kind of annoys me about all of the, let's call it rage, because let's be honest, 30-something-year-old people don't get that much upset about shit like that. It's mostly teens, teenagers, and maybe 20-somethings, because we've been through some shit and we know that's just it will pass. Once you're over 30, you get a lot of time experience. You know, like you get time to put in time, so you know shit's gonna pass. And the thing is that nothing happens to the old ones. The older games are still usually available or playable. The old movies are definitely still available and viewable. So all of this, it's something that really annoys me because you could be using that energy towards something productive, motherfucker, not raging on the internet.
Yeah, like some people actually are doing that. They're taking the old games and making sure they're still playable by re-implementing the engine, basically making the same game with a new engine that actually works on modern systems, which is something the developer doesn't really do all that often.
See, exactly. That's the type of now. That's a community. That's a bunch of people who are the same. They were annoyed by what was happening, but they decided to do something productive with it, as opposed to bitching on the internet.
Yeah, but on the bright side, I mean, bitching on the internet is really easy and a bit cathartic. Like you sort of get that weight off your chest that, oh my god, these guys screwed me again. I'm gonna just tell them to go do something.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure, and I know for certain that was quite a big trend, like in the mid 2000s to the 2010s. Since there was like a huge number of angry, irate, mad, quote unquote, enter your own game or movie reviewer thing. But I grew out of that. So as far as I'm concerned, that thing doesn't really attract me anymore. I don't do that.
I think it's similar to what the critic in Ratatouille said at the end. You're making a review that's mean, that's poking fun at something is easy and entertaining. It's very entertaining. But
I guess it can be, but although Ratatouille, great fucking movie, man.
So like the bit at the end, like
that twist, that sort of twist at the end it's not a twist, but the reveal at the end is just like it's one of those stories, one of those movies that everything actually makes sense. At that point in time, like the critic character's character makes sense right at that time. So that's like that was very well written piece of animation. Anyway, let's refocus on the RTS genre.
Yeah, I'm gonna mention one more thing about bitching on the internet and RTSs.
We're gonna have to.
Electronic Arts had the habit of banning people that used to complain about their games, and they banned if somebody complained about Riddler 3 on their forums, they banned them. And because Electronic Arts had a really complicated and confusing system with accounts, that meant you could no longer play the game you bought.
Oh, okay. See, that's just they just fucked up. That's just
I know.
Company fuck up.
That's also why I have like 50 Origin accounts, I think, for all my emails. I didn't even get banned anytime, but I just made accounts on Battlefield Heroes. I made an account on pretty much on any game they ever had, because you had to make an account. And I didn't necessarily use always the same email, because I had a bunch of them. So I now have a lot of Origin accounts, all of them with games on them, and I'm trying to find a way to mesh them together. It's kind of confusing.
If anyone listens to this, they're just gonna cancel all of your fucking accounts.
Probably. I mean,
you don't mesh, motherfucker. We make them disappear.
I just activated games on one account by accident because I sort of logged into that by accident, and turns out it worked. It wasn't an Origin account. It was an Electronic Arts account, and it just worked.
See, that's why I stick only to Steam and GOG.
Yeah, it's a lot simpler.
I don't really need all of the.
But they did give Riddler 2 for free, so there's that.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, I understand why that's important for you, because you are a CNC and Riddler player. I wasn't.
Yeah,
I was a StarCraft player.
So let's get on to the nitty gritty of it. Mm-hmm. The first and most important question: left click or right click for movement?
No,
because there's two different styles.
I'm gonna go with right click.
Yeah, left click is a bit like it has a bit of a style to it, but it gets confusing when you actually want to select something, because you'll always tell units to move instead of selecting them.
You could kind of switch or experiment with them like 10 years ago or 15 years ago. But
now it's basically right click.
Yeah, I think it has become one of those iconic things, and I'm using the word iconic literally, which comes from icon. You know how the save button is a floppy disk?
Yep. But
kids nowadays have never seen a floppy disk. Mm-hmm. So for them, the icon, that symbol has just become save your document or whatnot.
Yep.
They don't know where it started from. So it's the same thing with the clicks. It has become so ingrained that normally you click, as in you select with your left, and then you do something other with your right from Windows, from using all kinds of all OSs. That I think it's a bad idea to do it otherwise now.
Yeah, it sort of went the same way as movement in first-person shooter games, where everything is WSD now. It used to be arrow keys.
Yeah, it used to be the arrow keys. Yeah,
actually, there's actually a bit of, there's a thing. Doom had arrow keys, but Ultima Underworld, which was released a year before it, had WSD.
I think that was more due to the fact that Ultima Underworld is an insanely different game than fucking Doom.
Actually, S wasn't backwards; it was walk forward slowly. X was backwards.
See, that kind of makes sense, actually, if you think about it a bit. But Ultima Underworld also had a crap ton of other keys that it required. Doom had the arrow keys in 1 till, I don't know, what, 7? What the fuck was it? I think 7
1
slots.
to 7, control for fire. Or
yeah, sure. Yeah, no, that's it's fine. So probably that's why. Also, Ultima Underworld is still a pioneer and still a great game, even compared with modern offerings.
Yep.
So usually classics, no matter the genre or medium, still stand up for valid reasons. I mean, yeah, sure, Citizen Kane is a boring ass movie, but it's wonderfully shot.
Yep.
So the thing is, we were talking about RTS games. Actually, you made a video about what happened to the RTS genre a while ago, and
one that proved to be a bit more successful than we thought it would be for some reason. I don't know why.
So, and I think we're actually going to refer back to it a couple of times because it was quite interesting. So, anyone listening, if you don't want to be in the dark about it, you can go watch it now. Don't worry, we'll wait.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's enough time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So now that you watched it, there's a couple of interesting things you talk about in the video, and I would like us to talk about it because I'm gonna offer a bit of a rebuttal, sort of.
Okay.
Because I think that's something that lacks now on the internet. There's very little
dialogue.
Actual dialogue. Yeah, there's comments, but yeah, sure. I actually think at a certain point you talk about what would a modern RTS, what would an RTS be now? Can we really add anything to the formula? Can we make it palatable? Can it work? I actually don't think so. I'm pretty sure you can come up with gimmicks. I'm pretty sure you can implement the RTS idea in something like augmented reality, virtual reality, that sort of shit.
Oh, I've seen a concept of Riddler 2 played in VR. It looked amazing.
But I don't think you can... and I could be wrong, but I literally don't think you can go further or do things differently than they have been done, than they have been then they've gotten to the polish of, or let's not say necessarily the polish, but at the level that Blizzard has put into StarCraft 1 and then 2, and on the other hand the Command and Conquer series up until the shittier ones.
Yeah,
because I see them as they're obviously both in the RTS genre, but one of them caters to both of the products, both of StarCraft on the one hand and CNC on the other hand. They cater to different niches of RTS players.
Mm-hmm.
You're a CNC person. I'm a StarCraft person. Those are for valid reasons. And I can't really see how or what they can bring to the table to make an RTS better than the ones that we've already had.
Well, there have been some attempts, and I got some flack for not mentioning Total Annihilation like at all in that show. Sorry about that.
Total Annihilation is a normal game. It's contemporary with StarCraft and CNC. That's out of the question. I'm talking about modern.
I say that Total Annihilation was evolved through Supreme Commander and through Planetary Annihilation, which was a game that was an RTS but took place on several planets at a point where you could smash planets into each other.
Yeah, I played Total Annihilation, Planetary Annihilation. Didn't really catch me. I wasn't impressed.
It was a neat idea, but the actual core RTS part of it wasn't all that well made up until at least they got to one of the expansions out.
So, and another thing you mentioned is that when RTSs were quite popular, a lot of people played RTSs, and that implied the fact that they spent a lot of time in acquiring skill in playing RTSs, be they CNC Red Alert or StarCraft.
Mm-hmm.
And nowadays, those same people that played the RTSs back then, we're considerably, well, maybe not considerably, but we're older. We have much limited time on our hands.
Yep.
And we really can't spend that much time into developing a skill that there's no payoff for. Like there's no quick payoff for. Hence why most of us will still go back to playing StarCraft 1 or 2 or Red Alert 2 or whatever, or Age of Empires, whatever our RTS was way back then.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, that's one of the arguments that was put forth in favor of turning Command & Conquer into a mobile game, because a mobile game doesn't require as much of a skill or time commitment. So that is actually one bit in its favor. Where the game actually,
objectively speaking, sure, it makes it that does make sense. I'm just talking vis-a-vis your video, and you nailed that one quite right, because I used to like RTSs. I used to play a lot of them. I'm pretty sure you actually played way more titles than I have. But on the other hand, the titles that I did play, I hardcore played those motherfuckers.
Yeah, especially StarCraft, which is actually very good because we're going to approach the situation a bit different, like from different starting points.
Yeah. And that was great back then because I had the time. I had a group of friends and school colleagues. We used to play and go to what do you call computer.
Net cafes,
and we'd get like a bunch of hours and play StarCraft on Big Game Hunters for hours on end. But that was a different time. And nowadays, even though there is the internet and shit like that, it's kind of hard to get into something new when you're all by your lonesome and
when you're older. Like one good example for this, which is not an RTS, is Fortnite. Like you play very well in PUBG, right? I mean, I know you play well.
I won't say very well.
You play better than me.
Yeah, but I also play I think I have like 300 hours in that bitch. So
have you tried playing Fortnite?
No, it doesn't attract me. Literally the aesthetic design, the graphic design isn't for me.
I tried playing Fortnite when it came out. I liked it. It was nice, but I didn't really stick to it. I came back to it a couple of weeks ago. No chance. Like the amount of skill required to play Fortnite now is the amount of skill required to play StarCraft competitively now. There is no chance. Like
did they
shooting in that game is almost inconsequential. It's the building, the rate at which you build, how you think your building's out in the middle of a combat situation. That is how you win. Like it is.
So the game became that.
Yeah, it's got layers upon layers that you cannot learn if you're too old and don't have the time to dedicate to it.
I see. Well then, yeah, sure. I haven't been playing actually lately. Apropos of building, I've been only playing Fallout 4 on survival mode and Magic the Gathering in real life. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that the selection of screenshots you showed me about how to fix a problem with AI spawning in on top of buildings. You just build a platform for them to come down.
Yeah, that's man, it's emergent gameplay.
Yeah, it's Bethesda. Fix your own bugs.
Yeah. Well, shit. At least it allowed me to.
Yeah.
First of all, I had the idea. Second of all, it allowed me to fix it without any of that pesky coder shit.
Yeah. If only Morrowind had that.
You really love that game, man. That and Daggerfall. You need
I wanted to complete certain quest lines in Morrowind back in the day, but one NPC just vanished when it was about a conspiracy to kill the Emperor, and I never found him. It just vanished. Like, I think he fell off the map, and I had no idea about the codes to summon spawn NPCs back then.
Someone should, and I say someone, and that someone is not me. Someone should just start following and go through your backlog of videos for like only the past year and just make a collage of every time you mention fucking Daggerfall or Morrowind. And it's going to be like a long ass video.
Yeah, probably. Because I played Morrowind especially quite a lot. Like, I had a broken CD-ROM for like 3 months and had 3 games on my system. Morrowind, Ultima, for which I never finished. Because it's
Ultima 4.
It's harder to play and kind of more complex than Morrowind. And
it is, especially if you didn't have a manual, so yeah.
Absolutely. And Dave Mira's Freestyle BMX, which I finished 3 times, and I loved it.
It used to happen a bunch. I remember also my CD being on the fritz and having like only a couple of games. And thankfully, one of my games was Diablo 2. So
you lucky man.
I didn't need the CD anyway.
Back to the RTSs. What we're talking about.
So I was mentioning that
time and skill,
I don't think. Yeah, first of all, I don't think you can really improve on the RTS. You can maybe add like gimmicks or change the theme or some shit like that.
Yeah, I
the time and skill.
I can't really think of anything anyway to improve them either. But that's me. So maybe there's somebody out there that can think of something better.
I'm pretty sure that there might be something or someone who has like this weird so it's so innovative that we can't think of it because we're too old. But I can definitely think about ways of improving other genres.
Yeah. But
I really can't think of a way of improving an RTS. So that's why I tend to give myself and yourself a bit more credit.
I had hopes for Acronus, I think that's what it was called, the time-traveling RTS game, which was made, like, I think, either by a single person or a very, very small team. It didn't really take off because the RTS component wasn't really all that great from what I heard, but the time travel aspect of it was phenomenal. It worked on the idea of time, is you're not just fighting on the map as it was, but in time. Like, you could go back in time and fight the battles that you lost with new units, and the enemy could do the same. Like, it was 4-dimensional.
Okay, but does that change the when I'm talking about improving the formula, or I'm talking about does that somehow change or improve upon the literal gameplay mechanics of selecting, building, resource management, resource gathering?
Well, it does, because you have to think about what you're doing in terms of 4 dimensions now, not just 4 dimensions if it's a 3D RTS, 3 dimensions if it's a 2D one.
I haven't played that, but it doesn't. From the description, it doesn't seem. I mean, it's tactics. It's tactics and strategy. The things you
but now you have to do it through time as well.
Yeah, it's the same fucking thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. It's like I attack now, and later he'll attack me. It's through time. Fuck it.
Yeah, but he's gonna attack me with units he doesn't have right now because he made them in the future.
And that's once that's the normal, once that's the status quo, that's just how the game works. That doesn't really add anything to how the game is played. It's just a different method. It's a different theme basically of playing it. It's just as if for instance, I'm playing Afterlife. I started playing Afterlife. Awesome game. It's a great game. In which you have to build and manage hell and heaven. It's not that special. It's just like, it's basically like having a bigger city or having 2 cities, one next to the other. It's not the simple fact that it has a different theme doesn't necessarily make it mechanically different. The mechanics of Afterlife makes it different from other city builders, from modern city builders, but the actual theme and setting doesn't. That's my point. Anyway, and again, so you said the time travel thing is cool, but the RTS elements or the RTS,
Yeah, like the actual units, how they behave, the pathfinding, not all that interesting.
well, first of all, that's like your bread and butter if it's an RTS.
I mean,
And
like that mechanic of time traveling could be implemented basically in any kind of genre, and it'll be amazing if the base game was also great, which in Archon's case wasn't.
That's my point. It doesn't. I mean, it adds something extra. It doesn't.
Yeah, it's like
evolve.
the building in Fortnite as opposed to just being a battle royale.
Exactly. Because again, it's not like it's improving on the genre. It's just adding stuff
to it.
It's adding stuff to it, and usually, and what has been successful with the RTS genre is actually stripping away a bit of the S part and adding in RPG elements or adding in some other elements and making it a bit of a melange of stuff. And those types of games I kind of actually really enjoy playing. Like a group based or like a hero based sort of thing.
Yeah, like Warlord's Battlecry, if you played
Dawn of War 2.
Well, Dawn of War 2 is more like a real-time tactics game because you never collect resources or build units, basically. You're just palling around with your Marines.
Technically, sure, but you can actually, you do conquer, you do actually have points of interest on the map which you can choose to conquer, and you get bonuses. And also you can get reinforcements. True,
but there's no actual economy that you have to manage.
There's no real economy in that sense. But those are the types of games that myself as an ex RTS player, relatively hardcore RTS player, have gravitated towards now in my older, let's say, years. It's been like fucking 2000. Yeah, it's been more than 10 years since I used to play. No, fuck it. It was 2000. 99, 2000. It's 18 years. Yeah, it's been a while.
Yep. Have you played by any chance the Warlords Battlecry series? Because it sort of has a similar idea to the hero-based RPG thing.
No, but it sounds familiar. Warlords.
It's an RTS, but any unit can gain level. It's like any of them, and if they're not dead at the end of the battle, you can assign them an actual name, so they're not just peon number 1 or knight number 57 that's not dead. They have a name, and they sort of continue to gain experience as your campaign progresses, and you sort of get broken up when they actually die for reals.
Kind of like XCOM, you mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, that sounds cool. That sounds cool. But again, I don't, and I think the fact that RTSs are require such a large time sink, such a large time sink and require a time investment without you actually having a quick reward, because that's one of the reasons why. At first MOBAs and now the battle royale genre have been and are popular is that
they're a contained story. Like it takes, well, in case of a MOBA, it can take up 90 minutes, but still, it's shorter than the campaign.
Sure, but you get in the game. You get the game. You get progression. You see yourself progressing, or die a lot. But there is some progression that you can see and you can experiment with. And again, you can iterate on it quite quickly as opposed to an RTS where you only see the results or the lack of results after, I don't know, at least 10 minutes in or more than that. In a MOBA or a battle royale, you can see the results of the lack thereof in a couple of minutes, depending on how well you play or your luck, if it's down to PUBG and where you land.
Yeah. Frying pan to the face in the first 10 seconds is always fun.
So, well, now more than ever, because there's achievements now, and there's achievements for killing people with pans, so that happens a bit more often now.
Lovely.
And again, I think that's why the RTS hasn't been a thing for a while, and I don't really see it coming back. What I do see is it's this blend with like you said, real-time tactics or turn-based tactics or something that. But again, if it's turn-based, then it's not real-time, and then if it's tactics, then it's not real strategy. So
Yeah, because there's an example of an RTT game. Like I think it's one of the best ones ever made. It's Men of War. It's a superb, fantastic game, and it has one attribute that really makes it kind of a standout game in multiple genres. You can play it with one character. Like you can set up multiplayer modes for it, where you're basically playing World of Tanks. It's got an insane level of simulation to ballistics, even though it's a real-time tactics game made to play with hundreds of units. But it goes in so much detail that it has kind of the same simulation for armor for the tanks that World of Tanks has, and you can basically play that in that game without any need for mods.
And that's a good one. But again, even
RTSs don't have the kind of flexibility like most of them that I played. They let you have the kind of experience.
And even in that, the example you gave me, you will easily see and have a sense of progression.
Yeah.
And that's something that has become that much more important in the industry as the industry has gotten older and the gamers have gotten more experienced. Back in the day, you would play whatever the fuck you had because you didn't have that much choice. You didn't have that much awareness of what's there. And the medium was still young, was still new. Like I know for hell I wouldn't be playing platformers now. I played a lot of platformers when I was young because that's all I had. That's all I had access to. But I wouldn't be I don't play platformers now.
After a while, you sort of kind of get into your head they're all kind of the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of sort of exceptions, but they're not exclusively platformers. Like I reviewed it's kind of like it's a pixel Souls-like 2D thing. It's called Dark Devotion. Not exactly a platform. It has platforms in it, but it's not. So I would play some things, but not the classic jump, hide, run, shit like that.
Because we've done that a billion times already. We especially, we've played that kind of thing a lot, so it's kind of hard to do anything new for us.
Yeah, so that's why, and I don't see how you can offer that experience with an RTS. And I think StarCraft 2 just made it under the wire, basically.
Yeah, what really made StarCraft 2 shine, like absolutely shine for me, was that it was the sequel I always wanted to Red Alert 2. Because if you don't know, it's designed by the same designer of Red Alert 2. And it shows, like, the missions you have in StarCraft 2, they're a lot more varied and crazy than they were in StarCraft 1. They're a lot closer to what they were in Red Alert 2.
You have a point there, but also StarCraft 1 was made in, 1997?
98.
98. I think Brood War is 98, actually. I'm talking about the original. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's 98-ish. And StarCraft 2 came in, 2008?
Yep.
Or around that?
2010.
Close enough. So the capability and the industry evolved. It's not like even if they had the same designer that worked on StarCraft 1, the missions wouldn't have been just like StarCraft 1 because that person had to evolve and develop as a creator.
When I'm saying that StarCraft and Red Alert were sort of made with similar tech, but Red Alert was a bit crazier. Like with the things you could do, and
they were made with different approaches. Red Alert Red Alert had a lot of super great ideas that I enjoyed, but that were completely splattered by tank rushes. I mean, there was one thing. There was one cool thing in Red Alert 2 that I really enjoyed. I think the Russians had like a radiation soldier.
Oh, the Desolator.
And whenever you commanded it to bunker down, it created like this, this circle of irradiation around it.
If you had the unpatched version of the game, that thing, if you left them like for a minute or two, it got so hot it would blow up any tank that passed through it. Anything. It just died. And that area would remain irradiated for the rest of the game.
the other mechanics around it didn't allow for that to be used in any sort of actual strategic or tactical way.
You could use it to create choke points.
For soldiers, maybe, but not for tanks.
Well, yeah, but they would damage tanks.
You could run over the fuckers with the tank.
Yeah, but the area would still, like in the unpatched version, that area would still remain. It was still hot, and it would blow up an apocalypse tank.
That's great, but could it blow up like 100, 150?
Well, if they all passed at the same speed through it, yeah.
I don't think. I mean, yeah, sure. Yeah, you played the game more than I did. So, but whenever I saw people playing that, I only saw like walls of tanks against walls of other tanks.
Yeah,
and that's not something that appealed to me.
That's the main problem. We have different sensibilities for RTS games. From what you've told me, you enjoy the multiplayer of it a lot, don't you? Of RTS games.
Yeah, sure. I played I played StarCraft 2. I played on the ladder. I had a friend that we would play duos. Yeah, sure.
I mostly play for the campaign. Like, I've played StarCraft 1 in multiplayer, like when we played with you last time, and like once 10 or 15, 20 years ago.
Oh no, we were just like StarCraft was almost never about the campaign or the story for me. It was exclusively about playing with my friends.
Yeah, I get that, but we have different approaches when it comes to what a good RTS can be.
Yeah,
it's about the mechanics, about how you can use these units in interesting ways to create a tactic that's going to be interesting to play with and against. Sometimes.
That's why I also love Magic the Gathering so much.
It offers so many options, and it's superb. It's great,
yeah.
But to me it's a bit tiring. Like when you play an RTS game, like you said, it requires a lot of commitment of skill, and it takes a while before you see the results. And you can lose like 5 minutes in because you made a wrong build order and didn't notice, and get steamrolled like 20 minutes later.
Yeah, there is a bitch with RTSs.
I know. That's why I mostly gravitated towards single player, and StarCraft 1 had a superb single player. The third mission was one of my favorites ever. It's probably my favorite kind of mission. It's the kind where you turtle into your own base and do your best to not die while being invaded by waves and waves of seemingly endless enemies that you have no hope of surviving.
Yeah, those are indeed fun, and I still kind of enjoy the campaigns or the story modes for similar games, also real time, but I think you would call them real time tactics, or I don't know. I'm playing something. What would you call? Is Total War turn based, or can you pause it?
Total War is real time in the combat, real time tactics in the combat, and grand strategy-ish in the turn-based mode.
When it comes to combat, yeah, I'm playing. So it's real time. I'm playing indie. I mostly play indie games. People who've been listening and who follow my channel should really know that. So I started playing something called Ancestors Legacy, which is kind of like somewhat like Total War, but it's only focused on the combat. Basically, there's a map. You have a group of varied soldiers, and you do some shit. There's also a bit of base building, but you're not really in direct control of where you build things. You just give it orders, and it automatically builds things wherever it considers, wherever it sees fit. Mm-hmm. And I would enjoy for this game to have a more real-time resource gathering sort of approach. But it's not that type of game, because it does have resource gathering of a sort. It's quite interesting actually how they implemented it, but it doesn't allow for that sort of turtling or amassing an insane number of units so that you can overwhelm your enemy, so that there's really no it's not a fair fight, as it were. I don't know if that I think those times have passed actually.
Well, I wouldn't say. I mean, the kind of games that were based around that idea of you sort of fighting against waves of enemies with having a small base, that sort of spun off into, well, it was sort of a micro genre, the Warcraft 3 maps of survival, where you had like hero survival or something. That never became its own genre for some reason. It was one of the most compelling kind of custom maps in Warcraft 3, though. Like that and Dota. Those are the only things that people ever played.
Yeah, you never know. I used to play a lot of Spiral Defense, actually, which is kind of it's a similar approach. You never know what super duper catches are, and Dota caught on like crazy.
Yeah.
I would open up Warcraft 3 just to play Dota with some friends.
I
After
played
this
up until
happened,
2010, I think.
yeah, this happened a lot of time after I finished playing Warcraft 3 and the Frozen Throne. I'd reinstall it in order to play Dota.
Yeah,
with,
that's what me and some friends did like for 2 or 3 years until we just quit, like, and went to League of Legends and Dota and Heroes of Newerth.
yeah.
Dota 2, I mean.
So you never really know what will catch on.
Yeah, but
And
there weren't
I
even
think-
like games that I know of made in that kind of made after those kind of Warcraft 3 maps. Though the Warlocks one, the one when you play with as wizards and have all sorts of magic that you can use, that actually became its own game like this year, I think, or last year.
That's
I think it
fun.
was Wizards or Warlocks, and that it's sort of a delay of like what is it, 10 years since that mod came out, until the game made after it came out.
Had to make sure, had to clear copyright.
Probably.
And I think you had another. I'm not sure. I mean, you had another important point in that video, and you said that at a certain point, the RTS genre became StarCraft.
Yeah, I think in terms of complexity, in terms of the best like form for competitive multiplayer RTS is StarCraft. Like it's kind of impossible to compete with it because there's a depth to it, there's a difficulty to it that's sort of learning to play it at a high level is an entirely different game than it is to playing it at the beginner level. And
At a casual
Yeah.
level. Yeah, that's exactly so. And this is, and while some people might interpret that as being a bad thing, I don't see it as being a bad thing. Neither when you look. I mean, it just so happened that these guys somehow created this perfect mixture of good gameplay ideas and pathfinding bugs
Yeah.
that then the player base managed to learn and use to their optimum efficiency. And at a certain point, I think they actually stopped fixing some
Oh, yeah.
of the
They
some
did.
some of the pathfinding or usually the pathfinding bugs or the movement bugs, because they saw that people were using them as legit parts of their tactics without them being exploited, which is insane. That there's no way you can design that. That's just serendipity.
Yeah, even the limitations that the game has in terms of interface, like you can't control, I think, what was the max, 12 in
12.
StarCraft 1? Yeah.
Yeah, you have 12 groups.
That, if you were able to select more than that, it would have been a completely different game.
Yeah, because of a really good player could just swarm the entire. I mean, they can swarm the map anyway, but giving them a lot of control over a lot more units, that's a whole other balance issue.
Mm-hmm.
And also, you have to keep in mind that StarCraft is the first thing that created what we now call esports.
Yep.
If it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have all the craziness and this fledgling, this developing culture, basically this separate culture of esports. And also we wouldn't have that super cool Play Goo video, which is just awesome.
Mm.
I hope you know the video I'm talking about.
I haven't seen it. I'm going to look it up after.
No, Jesus.
I
It's
know.
God damn it, man.
I know, it's probably an ancient meme that predates Twitter or something.
It's insanely. Granted, it was much more popular in StarCraft communities, StarCraft playing communities. But you should have. Yeah, I'm gonna send you the video. It's great.
Yeah, but the thing is, there's also there is one downside to that is, as you said, if you want to get into it, it's hard, especially
Oh.
now.
Oh yeah, even if you're returning to it, it's fucking.
It's sort of like what happened to me with Fortnite. Like I was doing okay. Like I finished in second place when I made the play. Now I can't get to like top 50.
Well, it might also be because of the ranking. Because once you win one, or once you rank higher, usually the matchmaking system puts you up.
Yeah, but that was 5 seasons ago.
Okay, yeah, sure. Then that's
like the skill ceiling, the skill floor increased, and the skill ceiling sort of turned out to be non-existent, and people are keep climbing higher and higher and higher. And StarCraft, that's also valid, and in some cases it has a lot of problems. Like I've told you about the Terran exploding wrist syndrome, where some high-level Terran players need surgery on their wrists because of the strain caused by the micro they have to do.
I think that was more valid in StarCraft 1 than StarCraft 2.
Yeah, in 1.
Because in 2, at least the units are actually a bit larger. So that kind of helps with selection. Although very few of them actually use the mouse. For that, they usually just do hotkey stuff.
It's that skill ceiling that can just go up and up and up that sort of dissuades me from ever trying competitive RTSs, because I know that somebody's going to spend a lot more time playing it.
Oh yeah,
somebody's going to enjoy it a lot more than I am. When they're just going to steamroll over me, and because I don't have the dexterity to play as well, I don't have the skill, the knowledge to play as well.
We don't have the twitch reflexes. We're older dudes now. We don't have the same twitch reflexes we had when we were.
But in single player, I can set the speed to low, and I can just enjoy myself.
And you can think about, you can take that approach and think about, and I think this is one of the reasons why MMOs and especially World of Warcraft was so popular, because it allowed someone like myself who enjoyed. Well, first of all, I was a big fan. I'm a big fan of Warcraft, the games and the world and the lore and stuff. So I'm a Blizzard mark in general, but it allowed me to enjoy something in a multiplayer setting, but at a casual speed.
Yeah, in a more passive way than being for 90 minutes in complete adrenaline rush.
Not sure, but really be stressed and tense and shit like that. And now that we're talking about it, I think that's a valid reason, because I was actually, we were talking about this a couple of days ago. So people don't know this, but I've not been, for like a week or so, and it's gonna get a bit longer. I have not been in the mood to make videos or actually play other stuff, except, like I said, Fallout 4 and Magic the Gathering in real life. And also I got my collection from Romania back, so I'm gonna start sifting through that. And I was telling you, this is the type of situation in which I literally, and I purposefully thought about this, I consciously thought about this, I miss doing dailies in World of Warcraft, because doing the daily quests was something that allowed me to get in some game time, achieve something, get rewards for it, and then log off and fuck off for the rest of the day.
Yeah, that's what they were made to do. Like, they were made to give you that instant, oh, I did something, now I can just do something else.
Exactly, and I did that when I played WoW hardcore-ishly. There were days and weeks when I would need to take a break, but I would still go back to do the dailies. And this was this has been one of those periods which hasn't come in many, many years, in which I'm not in the mood to. I have a bunch of games, but all of the games I do have to play are very time-investy games, so I need to spend a lot of time in order to get the proper sense of them, in order to review them. Not in the mood to do that because the weather is really nice and I just want to laze. So again, Fallout 4, Magic the Gathering, and I would have totally gotten into doing some dailies just to get some shit done. That's not Fallout 4 and Magic. And that's not something you can do with an RTS game.
Well, no, unless it's something that maybe has like a really chill campaign, or like a really chill challenge mode, like what Red Alert 3 had with its World Conquest mode. Where you had like a map that was filled with exploding barrels.
Yeah,
you could finish it like in 1 minute. All you had to do was not explode enough barrels to blow you up.
I see. Well, I guess that could happen, but that's hardly the type of RTS experience that.
It was sort of a different. It was a. It wasn't the main RTS. It was like a side campaign or something. It was just a chill challenge-ish mode that you could achieve. It was a fun like side quest, if you will. A Gaiden.
Okay.
Red Alert Gaiden.
Since you've mentioned that there were, I don't know if people know this, talking about StarCraft, but there used to circulate around those times a skin flip, basically a reskinning of StarCraft to make everything look like anime stuff. It was called StarCraft Gundam or something.
I think I've seen it.
I've played it because obviously StarCraft. So it changed all of this. All of the ships looked like anime ships, and the rockets, and there were like mechs and shit like that. That was a thing that was interesting.
Speaking of mechs, if anybody wants to play some classic RTS, you can find Metal Fatigue now on GOG, which is a 3D-ish RTS where you can blow up enemy mechs and take pieces of them. It finally works on Windows.
That's
finally.
Cool. And also, if people do go to GOG, make sure to use the GaminGHD link offered in the description.
So Laurel's probably going to put it in the description. He usually does.
Well, it should be in the description, so that's why I'm saying.
Turns out I never mentioned that we had an affiliate link with the GOG like for the first 2 years when I was making history shows.
Well, no one said you're a really good employee, so
no, I'm horrible.
So there's that. But now that we talked a bit about that very good video of yours, how about I want to spotlight some RTS that I played.
Sure.
And that should be, there's a bunch of them. Most of them have been played by a lot of people, but I would like to especially spotlight Emperor Battle for Dune.
Oh, yeah.
Not great mechanically. It's kind of like Command and Conquer, but if you're a fan of I have a B in my B. Get out the B. I have a B in my room. Okay, it went out. Sorry about that. It was just came into my display. So Emperor Battle for Dune is awesome if you love Dune.
It is.
If you love the books, however many you read. I don't know because I didn't go past the first one because intergalactic politics really got me bored. That's something you might want to check out if it can run on. Can it run on Windows?
Yeah, it probably runs fine. I think.
Okay.
It should work. I think it's made on the same engine as Command and Conquer 3, maybe. So it probably works. I remember, yes. Like when I went to the store where we used to get totally not stolen fake cracked games.
Yeah. Okay.
I was getting Dune 2, and on a monitor there they had a trailer for Emperor Battle for Dune, like running in superb 3D, and I was getting Dune 2.
Although Dune 2 played the shit out of that game also.
Oh, yeah.
There is another really old game that I played and that I actually reviewed, and it's called Z. It's the letter Z.
It has a remake. Well,
it's something or other.
Remaster.
But that's a really cool game. It doesn't have it has sort of an economy, but you're not in direct control. Basically, you have to conquer areas, and these areas contain buildings which automatically produce units. But it does something great with its pixel art and its units, which are hillbilly robots. I repeat, the units are hillbilly robots. Yep. And the cutscenes are just wonderful 90s shit. These fuckers are in a spaceship and they have a tape deck, because of course.
Why wouldn't they?
Although maybe considering modern times, contemporary times, might be ultra retro by then.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe they were They were historians. They were collectors, and some other old cool stuff that I played. Sins of a Solar Empire, like the first one. That was really nice. I played something that isn't necessarily an RTS, but I really enjoyed it, and the title was really cool. It's called Heroes of Annihilated Empires.
Oh yeah, I remember that one. I remember playing the demo of it, and at one point we were playing as an elf going around, and oh, there's a tank.
It's just weird stuff, but it's really cool. I remember enjoying playing it a lot. It's not really I mean, you can build bases. I don't remember you gathering resources, but you had to, because you had to build bases anyway. But it's a really weird experience. It's kind of cool as far as I remember it. And then not really mentioning Age of Empires. The fact that I started playing RTSs with Age of Empires 1.
Nice.
And I always enjoyed Age of Empires 1 because of the building. I always enjoyed the building more than the combat or the other bullshit. Which now, looking back, obviously what I wanted to play was city builders. Yeah. That's why I enjoy city builders. But I really thought that Age of Empires, especially Age of Empires 1, you could actually kind of play that as a bit of a city builder if you have only one computer enemy and you just keep up. You have one higher level of military than they have.
Whereas if it's Age of Wonders 2 and multiplayer, you absolutely have to disable the faction that has the camel with the shotgun, with the rifles. Because
wait, what? Camel with rifles?
What the camel riders with rifles. I don't remember what the unit was called. I don't remember who. I think Spain had it.
Okay.
Because you can micro that stuff so well that it kills it. It is the best unit in the game. It will outright destroy anything else. That's why I never played really much of Age of Empires 2 multiplayer once I found out.
It's like in AOE when you say no elephants or some shit like that.
Yeah.
And one other cool one, but again, not really an RTS, more like real-time tactics, was Sudden Strike. I played Sudden Strike so much, holy shit. But interestingly enough, I don't have the same passion that I did for World War II in high school or after high school, because in this recent Humble Bundle, I got Hearts of Iron, and I'm like, I'm just no. What can we move on to other wars? There's been more recent wars that might be just as interesting to fictionally fight over.
There was like a lull in the World War II craze. Like it's sort of World War II became a lot less popular after like around 2007. Like then people just got fed up with it, and Call of Duty moved to Modern Warfare, and then sort of faded out. But it sort of built up against some nostalgia, and people want to play it again. That's why you got the Call of Duty back in World War II now.
Yeah, well, no, it's fine if you want to play it. I'm just not there anymore. I'm not interested in that. I mean, they could make them about more recent wars, but those might be a bit touchy for the American audience. So I'm much more interested in playing something either totally magic-y, totally fantasy, like Driftland, for instance, which I reviewed a couple of weeks back, or Stellaris, that sort of stuff. But right now I'm really waiting for a really nice RPG that I can jump into and just hang out and have fun with an RPG. Until then, mostly Magic the Gathering and Fallout 4.
Out of curiosity, did you play an RTS called Nightstorm ever in your life?
No, but I have heard of it.
Nightstorm is it's a bit of an interesting kind of game because it is an RTS, kind of, but the one of the main mechanics by which you play is Tetris. Because you have to build bridges between islands, and you do that through Tetris.
I do love Tetris. I mean, if if there was a game that I would have to consider like something to represent gaming, it would probably be Tetris, as far as I'm concerned. I love
Should
that
give it a
fucking
shot. I think the game was free at one point. Oh, and apparently there's a remake for it in the StarCraft 2 engine, so you can find it in the arcade, I think.
game. Okay, I don't have StarCraft 2 installed, so
Well, it's free, so it's no problem to get it if you're curious.
it's funny.
And I don't think, like, between us, I don't think we've played enough RTS games. I played a couple of them, probably a bit more than you. But like, I think we still just scratched the surface.
I'm not. I mean, I know for a fact that I only hardcoreingly played a bunch of them. I played Dune 2, Warcraft, StarCraft, Age of Empires. But the other thing you have to remember is that at that time, most other RTS titles were just clones of these upper mission titles.
Yeah, but a couple of them that tried like and do their own thing, like Seven Kingdoms. Which, okay, granted, Seven Kingdoms was not all that superb in combat because you only had one type of unit, which was your basic unit for your faction, and you also had the god. And oh yeah, you did have the sort of siege engines and catapults and stuff. But
Wasn't an RTS per se.
well, it was because you had you built units, you had resources, but you also had trading, you had diplomacy in it. It was sort of like a smaller scale grand strategy, but with RTS mechanics.
I'd much more likely call it like a smaller scale grand strategy than an actual RTS.
You did control individual units, which is not
It's a weird hybrid. Let's go with a weird hybrid.
It was so weird that the third one sort of just copped out and became an RTS and wasn't really a good one. Like, I think it was the first game I reviewed like commercially and got sort of not paid for it, but it was part of my job.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like the game too much. Sort of disappointed me.
No, well, sometimes it's hard to live up to expectation, especially
it just got out the whole what wasn't an RTS part got cut, and that was what the best part of that game was. Because the RTS bit wasn't all that superb.
Obviously, they either didn't think so, or publisher thought so.
Probably the publisher. I mean, publishers do tend to have a lot of control over what the game actually looks like in the end. Sometimes with good effects, like Diablo, not a turn-based game.
Yeah, put multiplayer in it also.
Yeah, put multiplayer in this game about how war is horrible and you're a horrible person for glorifying it. Let's have achievements for killing people now. That was from Spec Ops: The Line. They did not want multiplayer in that one at all.
Mm.
And RTS games sort of have combined themselves in the last couple of years with sort of action games. Like, I think it started with what was the thing called? Made by Shiny, I think. The guys that made MDK. I can't think of it right now. Sacrifice.
I've heard about that game, but I never actually played it.
Yeah,
I used to read about it in the magazines, but I never got to play it.
I almost got to play it once, but didn't. So I'm sort of in the same boat. But that trend sort of continued with games like Citizen Kabuto, with Giants, Citizen Kabuto, because it's an action game. But at one point, you're building buildings, you're collecting food, you're building units, and you're trying to not get killed by a giant gorilla.
Well, now, I think that's a goal for most of us. Most of us try to not get killed by giant gorillas in our day-to-day lives. That's what I think that the RTS is becoming. I mean, I don't think we'll get a lot. I mean, I am actually aware that there's an indie dev working on an RTS title, but it looks a lot like Warcraft 2. That's the whole idea they're going for. It looks like a cross between Warcraft 1 and Warcraft 2. It's like pixelish. It's that idea. So I know some people are obviously making indies, are obviously working on some RTS.
But it's more, sort of a niche at this point.
More of a labor of love sort of thing.
Yeah, like Grimoire was.
Well, that's I need to start playing that game, and then after like half a year of playing that game and streaming it, I can talk about it like war stories.
One game we should mention. Have you ever played Ruse?
I don't think I've even heard of it. What?
Ruse was, I think it may still be playable. I'm not sure because it was made in the age when Ubisoft was fucking everybody over with the DRM. Ruse was an excellent idea for a real-time strategy game where you had basically no idea what your enemy was building, and they didn't know what you were building. And you could half of your abilities, half of your attacks, your units were just fake. They were cardboard, and you could send them to the enemy, and unless they had like a spy unit or something similar to see exactly that they were fake or not, they had no idea, and they had to react to your lies. Basically, it was information warfare
Okay.
mixed with actual warfare because you also had units.
Apparently, in December 2015, Ruse was pulled from Steam due to a military licensing issue.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, no longer available for purchase.
Oh, cool. That's
So
awesome.
it's no longer available for purchase. Not that I would have purchased it to begin with, but just as I had never heard of this game.
Well, yeah, it sounds like one of the few multiplayer RTS games that I actually had fun with, because it doesn't require you to have like a lot of reflexes or a lot of in-depth knowledge. It's more about playing your opponent rather than playing a mechanic or a game with a lot of micro in it that you will eventually require surgery for.
Yeah. You would enjoy some of the modern tabletop games. Then they're very much.
The secret Hitler kind, yeah.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them that deal with that. There's one with werewolves, vampires.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think we played the werewolf one. We used to have play sort of tabletop simulator every week around here, but then we started having jobs and other things, and people left for college, and things fizzled out.
Yeah, we played once House on the Haunted Hill.
Oh yeah,
The alien one. It was the alien scenario.
that was fun.
So where are we? Where are we with the RTS? I don't think it's coming back.
Yeah, it may still like linger a bit in the niche genre, like where.
I think there's always gonna be right now the internet and the communities are so there is so many people out there connected and so many devs out there. Some of them making shit that they want to play. Let's be honest now.
Mhm.
Pretty sure, yeah, there's gonna be some titles at a certain point. That's how adventure games have still been kept alive.
Mostly by Germans.
Niche communities. Same thing goes for city builders, which I repeat, coming back. People, they're totally coming back.
Oh, I hope so.
I have there's the foundation game I backed is already I think their alpha is up and running. So the backers who backed up at that level, I think they're getting to play the alpha. And there's another cool thing that I sort of stumbled upon a while back. God damn it, I want to say give me a couple of seconds to find it because they recently changed the title due to some other company having a game with the same title.
Okay, in the meantime, I'm going to mention that the creators of the original Command & Conquer games and a lot of other strategy games that are now at Petroglyph are still making RTS games. They're just making them smaller and with a lot less complex graphics, and they're kind of nice. In the 8-bit Army series.
And that's cool.
Yeah, they're not what you would call like super duper complicated, but they're nice. Also, they're making a game I showcased at Play Now, but I forgot what the name was, where you would be unlocking technology as you progress through multiplayer matches, which is a dumb idea because you're going to be fighting against people that have vastly superior technology. And that is actually based off a giant disaster of a game called... I forgot what it was called now. So we're both looking up things we forgot what it was called.
Okay, I found it.
First.
Yeah, so the title I'm talking about now is called Seeds of Resilience. And I think you can find it on itch.io and might just as well be on
It's on Steam
as well.
Yeah, it is.
In early access or something. And it looks, I haven't played it. I haven't played this one yet. but I've been following it for a while, and it looks cool. It looks like a really hardcore survival sort of city builder. It's less of a city builder, more of a survival, but you have to tend to like resource gathering and houses. And apparently one of the examples is if you fish in a spot for too long, the fish stop. Yeah, the fish. So I'm looking forward to playing this one at a certain point. Again, telling you, the city builder, maybe not the pure city builder that we were used to. Maybe that one isn't coming back, but combined with the survival aspect makes it that much more realistic as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And that's why it gives it has more wings and more staying power. And that's why I think RTSs in their pure form, I don't think they're coming back as a trend. Combined, hybridized with other stuff like RPGs or action, sure, but we're not getting StarCraft 3 anytime soon, or ever, I think.
Yeah, StarCraft, I think, may be a done deal because they sort of finished the story, but would you say that there's a chance of Warcraft ever coming back as an RTS?
I don't know, man. There is a chance of Warcraft 3 remastered becoming a thing. There's been some rumors, there's been some hirings going on that point toward that. So there's been some hirings in Blizzard pointing towards both a Diablo 2 remaster and Warcraft 3 one. As far as the I don't think so, man. They're not that company anymore. They're not in that headspace. The audience isn't. It's not that they don't have the same audience that played Warcraft 3.
Yeah, like literally, they don't have there's been a whole generation of people born since then.
Exactly, and that generation of people has grown up with World of Warcraft and has been introduced to Overwatch.
Yeah.
So when it comes to this, it's like the cost of doing business. If you wanna be a successful company, then you have to change with the times and change with your audience. Because if you make the same goddamn thing, then you're gonna become a fossil. And what happens to fossils? Eventually,
unless you're Nintendo, which have been making the same kind of games.
Eventually, you turn into oil for the younger generations. Nintendo has always been. I don't want to say on the cutting edge because it's not.
But at least it's innovated.
But they've always, in terms of gadgets and in terms of how you physically and how you literally play the games, and that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge thing because they put a lot of R&D into this whole other domain that is quite important to gaming, as opposed to just putting it in making the games. They actually put it in making the tools with which you play the games, which isn't something anyone else is doing.
Yeah, the Wii was like one of the biggest things to ever happen.
Oh, fuck yeah, it was insane. Young people, kids had it, old people got it, because and to be honest, it was fun to play with the fucking things. It was fun to play tennis, and it was fun to do the. And
you get to sprain the shoulder after a while, but sure.
Well, you need to work out more. That's your problem for being a fat lazy fuck.
Also, there are a lot of broken TVs.
That one is because you're a fucking moron.
Whenever I see compilations of Wii fails, you just know a TV is gonna blow up.
Those were just like, fuck you won the Darwin Award. You deserve that shit, asshat. And also and we've seen that happen to a lesser degree with the Switch, which is I mean, if you look at it from a technical standpoint, it's a much more advanced or much more developed sort of device than the Wii was. But since now we've had the Wii and we've been used to that and more mobile platforms, it didn't hit as strong as you might have thought.
Well, probably because it did have one of those games that did rely on motion controls, but you have to buy it separately instead of being bundled with the console like Wii Sports was.
Yeah, but it's it's been getting increasing levels of traction.
Yeah, it's capable of running at least stripped down versions of games like Wolfenstein 2, which is a modern like AAA graphics to the umpteenth level game.
And isn't Skyrim going to Switch as well?
I think it's already there.
Yeah, so you know something. You know something makes money or is successful when Bethesda ports Skyrim to it.
Yeah.
I think that's gonna become one of those industry truths, like 10 years from now. Like the new VR, the new chip implant. Is there a Skyrim for it?
It's sort of like there was the joke of can it run Doom, because Doom can be made to run on a printer. Like people have made it run on a printer. It's gonna be the same thing with Skyrim, but Bethesda will get paid for that.
Yeah, people have made Doom run on thermostats.
Oh yeah,
on computerized thermostats. So that one, the printer is like, fine, sure. You know what would be cool? Doom on a printer that actually prints what happens.
Each frame.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's still like there's an ASCII version of Doom that runs like at 1 frame a second or something, so that would be totally printable.
Sure. That makes sense.
But coming back to the RTS a bit, I remember the name of the game. The disaster I was referring to was End of Nations. It was supposed to be a massively multiplayer online RTS where you would get to create and customize your own mercenary company that you would play with alongside other players against other players in a sort of giant meta campaign with different forces vying for control. And it got cancelled, and it sort of sucked when it did, because it sort of sounded like it would have been something good. The betas that came out were for kind of a different game. It was more of a real-time tactics game rather than a strategy game, because they dumped the whole portion of resource gathering. And the game went belly up then, leaving studios like Petroglyph with nothing apart from the technology they built. And Petroglyph has been trying like for 10 years to make a game based on that technology. And the last one that they made is actually the one that I think was the last RTS that I made a show about. Or was that thing? Let's see, Petroglyph. I think I had the name of the game somewhere around here. It was, Forged Battalion. That's the latest one that they have attempted, which is not yet cancelled, so I guess it had some success. It works on the idea of customizing your units. That's so far worked, I guess. Hopefully it will amount to something, but yeah, it's still a niche, very, very small game. It's not the kind of game that like they were making like 20 years ago when they were making Command and Conquer.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm talking about when I say I don't think it's really coming back like at that level. Sure, as indie production, stuff like that.
Technically, totally. Microsoft released Halo Wars 2 like a year ago, and it's Microsoft, so it's big budget, and they're bringing back an Age of Empires game, a new one.
Yeah, I heard about that.
There is some effort from Microsoft, which is kind of shocking because they're the ones that contributed to killing the RTS genre in the first place.
Well, let's just wait and see, because it's Microsoft.
Microsoft, like the people that were working, Ensemble, right? That's who made. I'm not convinced them with Enlight. Ensemble Studios. They were making Halo Wars, and Microsoft came to them, hey, we've got like 5 months until you finish this game. Okay, yeah, good. You're all fired. Once you finish the game, you're all fired. Don't think about making another Age of Empires game. Yeah, we know he had that book, he had it planned to go to World War II and stuff. Yeah, screw that. You're fired after you finish the game. Doesn't matter if the game's successful, you're all fired.
Yeah, douchebag Microsoft, man.
Yep.
That's about that's all we can say. And I'm gonna wait and see what that. I'm not gonna get overly enthusiastic.
Yeah, because Microsoft burned us way too many times.
Yeah, so no, I'm way more. Actually, honestly, I'm way more optimistic about Fallout 76 than whatever the fuck Microsoft is working on game-wise.
Yeah. Well, I guess this will be the end point for the RTS podcast with just 1 hour and 20 minutes in. So it's fine, yeah. It's under 2 hours.
It's good. It's good.
So, do you have anything coming up on your channel in the
No,
near future? No.
no, not in the. I'm taking a. I'm like I've been saying. I think I'm gonna take a bit of an extended break from making videos, and just play Fallout 4 and Magic the Gathering. But for people who are interested, I still have quite a sizable backlog of videos on my channel, and you can find in the description of my videos links to my Twitter and Facebook, where I do post more often, because I also I also write. I tend to write more nowadays, and obviously can't post what I write on YouTube. So that thing, what I write usually goes up on Twitter and Facebook page. So if you want to read about that or see some tiny Fallout funny clips I occasionally make, check that out. Otherwise, we'll see you when next GameTales.
Yeah. Wonder what it's gonna be about. We shall see.
We'll see.
Goodbye, everybody.
See you.